And this is duality. The duality we have to resolve within each of us is, on the one hand, we want to strive that constant spiritual aspiration, with also that practical side is that we just are not able to keep our consciousness up to that level. And so there are times when we just want to strive, but we realize we can't, and we fall back. And the problem is falling back and sitting by the wayside, which is all my image would be, I'm tired. I want to just sit here by the wayside and rest, catch my breath. And of course, well, maybe I'll take a nap too while I'm at it. And my gosh, this is a nice place to camp. I think I'll just camp out here. And the next thing you know, you've built a house. And, oh, what was I doing? It's like that story of Narada, going to get a glass of water for Krishna. And the next thing you know, what happened? And that's the, you might say, the temptation, I think, in all of us. And I know I've been tempted that way, but I keep having to remind myself, I'm resting, catching my breath, and in order to gather my forces to go forward. All of us as devotees who inevitably will find ourselves, we get to a certain point where we're tired. We get on a plateau, and then we have to gather our forces again. And we read whatever the equivalent of Shakespeare is for us, that we have to summon up that aspiration and not rest too long, you see. Because what happens when we rest too long? We become passive. And for a devotee on the spiritual path, passivity, to feel rather than to feel, you see, to be passive opens the door for old karma to come, for other things to enter in, diversions that will pull us away when we're not affirmative. And this is why Master would say, keep your attention here at the point between the eyebrows. Keep yourself affirming in that affirmative mood, because that's what will protect you, the affirmative positive attitude. But it also, it invokes, when you're affirmative, it invokes that which you're aspiring to, rather than waiting for something. God is with you already, he would say. We must feel that, realize that, not wait for it. When we're passive in our approach to God, and passive in our spiritual life, we find that we begin to, you might say, as the saying goes, go with the flow. Now, you think about that. Go with the flow. Well, the real question is, where is the flow going? You see, because there are two flows, and this is implied in the first quote that I read. There are two flows. There's a flow upward that takes a little bit of effort, and there's a flow in another direction toward engagement, attachment, getting involved in the annihilation of one's spiritual life. That flow doesn't take any energy at all, particularly. It's easy to roll a ball downhill. It doesn't take much energy, but to push that ball up is more difficult. And this is why the spiritual path is always referred to as an ascent, a climb upward, giving energy to something, and to keep ourselves engaged in some positive way. But again, how do we do that? We don't have to be exalted in order to follow that path, to put our foot in the boat or our body in the boat that's floating upstream. All we need to do is concentrate on spiritual ideals. And I think that's what brought all of us probably to the spiritual path, is we wanted those spiritual ideals. And when you want spiritual ideals, something spiritual, something positive, the world reciprocates and brings that to you. So sometimes we think, oh, I can't reach that height up there. But to get to the height, we take the first step that's right in front of us. What is positive? What is one positive thing I can do today, right now, tomorrow, the next day, and so on and so on. And in the concentration of something positive, you put yourself in that boat that's going on upstream. But doesn't happen without making a conscious choice to do that. I am going to do this moment by moment. It won't happen just by floating. When you float, which way does the river take you? It takes you downstream. If you want to go upstream and you've got your little boat, you got to row. In other words, you've got to row upstream, not float downstream. You don't float upstream. And sometimes I know when I was younger and that phrase, go with the flow, I sort of thought, oh yeah, just go with the flow and I'll just naturally get to where my heart wants to be. But it doesn't work that way. You have to put out some effort. You have to use your will a little bit. And certainly be willing, and then you put a little energy out, and then we find that with that little bit of energy, God reaches down to lift us up. And so that's what's being asked of us. God chooses those who choose Him. I choose Thee, Lord, only Thee. And that's a moment-by-moment decision that all of us are enjoined or challenged to do, to take an affirmative position in our daily life and to live consciously, not just be aware, but consciously aware in everything that we do, and for the positive, moving in a positive direction. And little by little, we find that that thing that we're consciously being aware of, affirming, becomes our reality. But start with that strong foundation. We must affirm that foundation, live by that foundation of being good. Goodness gives us the platform that then we can become perfect, because that's what's being asked of us. Be ye thou therefore perfect. And the process to doing that is to go back to what Swami said earlier, live consciously in the presence of the divine. And Christmas season, the festival seasons in all countries, they have this. This is they're reminding us to bring light into the day-to-day activities of what we're doing, especially when that light is needed when things are dark. But we don't need to wait for darkness in order to turn on the light. Sometimes in our lives we can keep that light shining in everything we do and every day. So God bless all of you, and I give you my blessings and wish you the greatest blessings in this Christmas season. Starting off with, what were those four things again? Hope, love, joy, peace. Let us concentrate on those and make them our reality. God bless all of you.